Hey everyone, it's Adriana from Roadie Free Radio. In this clip, Larry talks with Tana Douglas, the first woman roadie who got her start with AC/DC doing sound, leading her to do lighting work for Santana, Status Quo, and more. Tana talks about her experience being on the road with AC/DC and how luck and hard work allowed her to progress in the music industry. If you want to hear more about Tana's journey, you can listen to the full episode, number 160, from February 24th, 2020. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Here are Larry and Tana.
There's a fine line, I would imagine. You had some other skills in terms of knowing how to string a guitar and like be around the equipment side, right? But that rolling a joint, being around bands, the other side of that line is being a groupie. So did were you mistaken a lot as a groupie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or did people think that first and you're like, hey, man.
That was kind of the other thing that a reason for sort of getting away from AC/DC, working for a band directly, because at the time the scene in Australia was like pub gigs everywhere, but they'd hold like 1,000, 1,500 people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you do 10 of those a week. You know what I mean? So. But yeah, you get heckled, you get drunk yobs. Yeah, it's a fucking Sheila,
Right.
It's like, oh God,
right?
That's so original,
right? I imagine too. It's got to be an interesting dynamic to be part of the road crew, be a woman part of the road crew, and then but you're also rolling with the groupies, not meaning you're traveling with them, but like, they're part of the thing. So you're both looking at each other across the aisle.
That was always awkward for me because that was a big thing for me. I mean, some of those girls are fabulous. Don't get me wrong. You know what? They're great girls and what they do is totally their business, but it's just not me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Never has been, never would be.
Yeah.
So I was really sensitive to it, you know, and if someone called me a groupie, I'd get really, really pissed, you know what I mean? And it's like the first big festival we did with AC/DC, 20,000 people, and it's like, I jump up, heading towards the stage, throw the band in the dressing room, and I'm charging towards the stage, and the security guy's like, whoa, 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 little lady. Oh, God. Oh, God, here we go. And I've gone, like, I was so young then and so naive. It's like, no, it's all right. I'm with the band.
Right.
And this big gorilla of a man's like, well, then you best go find them, hadn't you? Because you're not over here. You are not coming here. No, I'm the roadie. You don't understand. And he's like, no, get the hell out of here, And it was only because one of the stage managers for the festival saw it and he yelled down from the stage, no, mate, seriously, she's their roadie, And then he grudgingly let me up. It's like, oh, for God's sake,
Wow.
My word means nothing here. Hello.
Right.
And, that happened a lot.
I was going to say, I'm sure that wasn't the first and last time.
And that was, I think, again, a big point for me to move over to like a production company where I'm kind of safer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by a crew.
Right.
We all travel together. There's more of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people know. It's like, oh, it's so-and-so. The production's arrived and we're doing it for whatever bands are playing that day, so we're in charge. So, again, it gives you a validation kind of thing,
Yep.
So that's kind of why I kept away from working for bands most of my time.
Just to seal up your AC/DC time, before we move on, because I like to ask, folks that have been on the inside as a band is exploding before they implode, before the eventual implosion comes.
Right.
What was that like to watch their,
It was amazing,
their rise?
actually. It was amazing. We all lived in a house together. And I was the only girl, obviously, living in the house. Angus had a girlfriend who was sort of come and go, but it was great because 24/7 we're all living together, so we're having breakfast together, we're smoking together, that we rehearsed in the house. So it was a full immersion, which also was a bit of a shock having just come out of the rainforest. Right. But I adapted. I'm a bit of a chameleon.
Yeah.
So, but it was an amazing time, and it's funny, Malcolm, before he died, he was asked, what's your favourite time in your career? And he's gone, Lansdowne Road was some of my happiest days. That was the house on Lansdowne Road.
Yeah.
And you know what? That was some of my happiest days too.
Yeah.
So it's...
Well, for you were 17? They're still 15.
Well, I ended up being 17. I was 17 when I left them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's still super innocent. You're in, your
absolutely.
teen years and figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did some of those older guys who were on the crew, older, they were probably 22 years old.
Everyone
right,
was older.
Right, yeah, exactly. Were they helpful? Did they show you?
Well, I think the other thing why AC/DC really helped my career is they're so family orientated, and there's such a thing. So many people have gone, they're such a close, tight lock. They don't trust anyone. They don't let anyone in. And when you're in, you're protected. And so they only hire people who they trust, and so I never had problems from the crew members or obviously never the band because they'd hired me, so it was always so that was good. Yeah. But it was dealing with the audiences that was really tough.
Right.
So,
but I mean, some of the older crew guys, did they start showing you the ropes? They could see you're there to try to prove yourself and all right, well, here's how you do this. I had a mentor from the very beginning, from when I was in Sydney before I'd moved to Melbourne and ended up with AC/DC. And he was just amazing. And he was one of the most respected road managers in Australia at the time, and for a long time after that, 30 years after. His name was Swampy Wayne Jarvis. And Swampy's his nickname and Wayne Jarvis was his real name, but everyone called him Swampy. And again, we both worked in London together afterwards and stuff, but with him giving me a nod and introducing me to some of the main crew people in Australia, then the ones who would be prone to give you a hard time weren't always game to, because I had the A-team behind me, you know what I mean? Right.
And they were teaching me, which was the other thing of get me somewhere where I can learn more.
Sure.
So it's all an evolution, And again, and just right when I started with that production company for the promoter, Paul Dainty down there, was when everything changed. That's when the sound system started coming in. That's when the lighting started changing. And, several of the tours, whether it was Santana, Neil Diamond, we did all outdoor with Patrick Stansfield. That's when I first met Patrick Stansfield. He became a great supporter for me. Yeah. So from those very early days, from that rash of international tours I did before I left the country, I got lifelong friends out of, Shoko people, Stansfield. It's, British people, delicate production people who weren't doing delicate production, but they were shortly afterwards. Tasco people who weren't doing Tasco, but by the time I arrived in London a couple of years later, they were. Right. So there was a job,
Right.
So, it was just, I think the timing, I feel I was lucky with the timing. People say it wasn't luck, it was really hard work.
Yeah, of course.
And it's well, okay, I'll take both. Yeah. It was both.
Last AC/DC question. Okay. Then we're gonna move on. Okay. Because we go to London after that, right?
Absolutely.
We go to England. You're standing in front of house, first gig with them as the front of house.
Right.
Hands on the faders. Tell me how you felt.
Why me? The backline was so easy, apart from wrangling Angus. But that was just a brief second of nervousness,
Right.
And it was I knew them.
Right.
I knew what they wanted.
Yep.
I knew their signals, their movements, their look in their faces, if they were happy or they weren't happy. So I think that, again, was the reason why they wanted me to do it, because they didn't have to retrain somebody. I already knew where they were coming from,
Right.
I just had to, and I'd been given a crash course, very crash course, one day, one afternoon, maybe a couple of hours, to be honest, on this desk thing,
Right.
And so it's just, that's what you do, and there's, a little bit of feedback happened, stopped quickly, figured it out.
Yep.
But again, it was a basic desk.
Right.
There was only, I think, 12, 16 channels maybe.
Yeah.
So how wrong can you go?
Yeah, right.
Really wrong. But luckily we didn't.
Right.
And they were happy with it.
Right.
They were good. It was a struggle with Bond's vocals, obviously, getting through that wall of Marshalls with such a small system. It was only a 3-way system originally. Then we expanded it to a 4-way system, but they could only go so big because we had the bus at the time, that all the gear went in the back of the bus and we went in the front of the bus. which was great because it made it twice as heavy to push when the damn thing broke down. But, so it was restricting. The whole, it was restricting, but I knew them and they knew me. Yeah. So it was easy, you know. And people liked it, I mean, when I stopped working sound for them, tons of Australian bands like, come and do our sound, just like you did AC/DC's. No, I don't think so.
How's your hearing?
Fabulous. What?
I haven't heard a question you asked.
Exactly. Are you here? Hello? Are you still here, Larry?
Somewhere. Floating out here somewhere, man. Hey, what's happening, roadies? It's Larry here. Just wanted to thank you so much for listening to this short clip. I really hope you got something out of it. If you can take 2 seconds to head over to iTunes and drop us a review or a comment, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Keep listening, keep coming back, stay healthy out there, and remember, no roadies, no rock and roll.